we were coming out today to start working on this. It was a turnip plot last year. We just bought this farm last summer, and we found a great area. This is kind of a natural travel corridor. It's close to food. It's also close to a road, so they kind of funnel right along here, and then they cross over that road at night. So this plot works out well as a staging plot. Usually they show up within, about a half hour of shooting light left, and then they trickle out into this bean field or cornfield, depending on what it is that year. So what we're going to do today is, as you can see behind me, there's still some stumps and stuff in here. So I came in, this was a fairly open area, but I did have to fell quite a few trees in here, and then we're going to work on edge feathering it now. I actually want to open the plot up, make it a little bit wider, and then we'll continue to edge feather after we figure out how wide we want it. So I'm going to show you how to do the edge feathering, and also, as you can see, those stumps that are left, they're burnt. What I've been doing is I cut stuff down, I let it lay, and then each year I'm going to have a big fire. I'm going to burn these stumps, and then after they're good and dead, then I'll come back in and I'll dig them out. A little hard to do when they're real green, so it's easier just to get them burnt. I'm going to come in, I'll cut the rest of them off, and then I'll dig around them. But pretty much, I'm going to turn the camera over here. You can tell on the camera that this is kind of the edge of the plot. This is where I stopped planting. So all this stuff growing here is alright. Some of these small ones are okay because there's some woody browse hanging off at pretty low. Pretty close to head height, but some of these other trees, like I'll turn over here for you. So these trees here, they're not producing anything down at head height for a deer, and I could widen this plot, get more food on the ground, and if I cut these, they'll sprout new shoots off. And I got a lot of stuff that I cut last year in here, and they're already shooting off new woody stems, and I got video of a couple does in here last summer feeding on the leaves as they resprouted from the hinge cut. So the big thing for this plot is I'm going to keep doing no-till. I'm going to try to build soil up, and then after I figure out how wide I want to make this plot, then I'm going to edge feather all the way around the whole thing by either cutting these trees or hinge cutting them, depending on how I want the deer to travel. That's another thing we'll talk about as well. Right here, I got a trail. It comes off a hill back there. There's a bedding area, and it works well for like a north-northwest wind. They'll travel right through here. So when I'm coming along this and edge feathering it or widening it out, I need to keep in mind, I want to keep that trail. So as I go this way, I don't want to get rid of that whole trail. It kind of funnels them right in here. So I don't want to get rid of that, but I'll show you my whole process and how I keep pinch points and funnels and how I try to make deer move into the plot a certain way so that I can benefit. Over there, I got a stand for the northwest wind, so as they're traveling this way, I got a good stand down there. So I also want to make the plot kind of funnel down that direction, and we'll put some mock scrapes and stuff in there along the way as well. So I'm going to go ahead, and right here there's a couple of these trees. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hinge cut this tree and that tree, let them lay. I don't think I'm going too much wider than where those are at, so we'll clear all this brush out along here, and that'll probably end up being the edge right there. So we'll go ahead and hinge those two trees, and then I'll work along this, and if there's any other trees the same circumference around, we'll go ahead and hinge that. Then you can learn for yourself too as you're cutting, because some of them just won't hinge cut. So those you might as well just fell and be done with it. But these two trees, we'll go ahead and get these cut down. We'll start whacking this brush back along here. Pretty excited. First time been out in a while, so I've been wanting to get this project going. If you look down there, I got one cedar left in the plot. Right down here. I think we're going to go ahead and knock that one down. Originally I thought about keeping it as a stand spot, but where these deer are coming in, I'll likely get busted on any of those southerly winds that I originally planned on hunting that stand with. Now it's also robbing a lot of nutrients in here. I can tell when I planted all this at the end of summer that everything grew great from about here on down. Right there in that corner, I almost couldn't get hardly anything to grow, and I think it might have had a lot to do with that. Also the soil, the pH was pretty low, so. But yeah, so pretty excited to get rolling. We'll go ahead and we'll cut a few trees so you can see kind of the whole edge feathering process and how to hinge them and stuff. And you want to cut about 70%, 75% through the tree, leave that cambium layer, and let it fall down. And if you get a good hinge, you can usually get them to live probably between 6 and 7 years. And maybe longer, depending on how healthy the tree was. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get a couple of these knocked down. Another thing to look for too, in hinge cutting. Sorry, I can't move the camera up to it, but you want to look up and make sure it's not getting hung up on anything. That's a big, just same as felling trees. You want to make sure you're clear around. Honestly, I got one little branch here. That's probably about it, really. Just this one branch coming up. I'll cut that out of the way. Then other than that, it's nice and clear through here, and up there I don't see it hung up on anything, so it should just drop right down. Alrighty, so as you can see, it dropped down. We didn't have anything in the waste. It's laying here alongside the plot, and nice and clean. That worked out great. Just giving you an example of the hinge cut. I do it at hip height. That's the best that I've seen so far as attractiveness for the deer is about hip height. But that tree hinged very well. Alright, so for that tree, it was easy since it was already facing the direction of the food plot. I just dropped it right alongside of it, and that actually is just creating more side cover along it. But like for this here, this is my trail that I was talking about, and I want to keep this trail, so I need to hinge everything this direction. So like if I say I was to take this trail, I would cut it this way. I want to drop it down alongside there. That one, I might take that out because right here where you can see this, there's a lot of dead trees and sticks and brush and stuff from last year that I dropped and laid here. We're going to burn all this. The plot's width is going to end up probably about right here is how I've been running along it. So we'll probably drop this tree. We'll need to clean that stuff up first, and then we'll drop this one this direction, and this tree will kind of act as the edge of the plot. So for edge feathering, what you're doing essentially is all along the edge you're creating browse and cover. So that's what I've been doing. Is some of them I've been felling depending on what type of species it is, and then other ones I've been hinge cutting if they're really easy to hinge like these. So, and then when we get down to that cedar, we'll have to decide whether we're going to take that cedar out of here or not. I think we're going to end up just felling that cedar, getting rid of it completely, since we're not going to use it for a stand. That was the only reason I was going to leave it up. But now that I know I'm not going to be using that as a stand, we're going to go ahead and probably take it down. The whole thing is you want to go in a certain direction. Like I don't want to be dropping these out into the plot. I want to be dropping them alongside of it. Or you just fell them, and then you'll just have stumps all the way around the whole food plot. And those stumps are going to, as long as you're not spraying them, they're going to shoot new woody browse and leaves, and there'll be tons of food coming off of them for the deer. I mean, if you think about it, the deer comes through here. I mean, there's nothing here. You know, there's nothing other than on the ground. There's some little stuff for them to browse on, but really not much. It's pretty bare and dead through here. So, ideally, when we get these knocked down, they'll have some good browse along here. And if we drop everything this direction all the way down this whole trail. Not only are they going to have side cover, but they're going to have food from their bedding back there all the way into this food plot. And could create some other good stand locations along the trail on their way here, especially during the rut and stuff when they're checking scrapes. And there's already a few scrapes I saw back on that trail. So pretty cool. We're going to keep rolling. We're going to take this one down, get some of this brush out of here so I can show you a couple more examples of how to be directional with how you drop them, and then we'll keep going from there. Alrighty, now that I cleared away those dead trees, another reason to wear a helmet. That one broke off and landed on me. But we just got these two here. We'll cut those out of the way, and then we'll get this one hinged down, and nothing will be in its way, and it should drop nice and smooth. Alright, we got one more to cut, and then we'll be good to knock this one down. I know it looks like a lot of work, it's because it is. And you know, it's nice to be able to just bring in equipment, knock this stuff down, but this is a lot more strategic. You do a lot more planning. You get to kind of see everything. And as I go along this plot, I'm finding new trails, and sometimes I find a good funnel where if I was on the tractor, I might have overlooked that and just started clearing stuff out. So this is definitely more strategic. You get to learn the property a little better, and I really like putting boots on the ground. So we'll get this cut now. That actually worked out perfect. But as you can see, there was one branch up there I got hung up on. And a lot of times with these smaller trees, you can just pull them and drag them right down. So now it's in the direction I want. It's laying right along the plot, not out in the plot. But they do make a habitat hook, because if that tree was a little bigger and I couldn't get to it, you could reach up there really high and get some leverage and actually get that to fall down. So that was good that that happened to me, so you can kind of see that with trees of this size, you can honestly just grab them and pull them in the direction you want and be safe about it. Alrighty, so we got a lot hinged tonight, and I fell about 7 trees, and I'm cutting them up into sections now. I'm just kind of showing you a good way to clean up your mess as you go. I'll come back in and all the stuff that I dropped that I can cut up, get this stuff into smaller sections, all the sticks and big branches, and I pile it up in the middle of the plot. And then you can start burning it right away, or you can come back early this spring and before you start planting, come in and burn it. It'll add nutrients to the soil, and also it'll clean up your mess. So it's a good way to go about it. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going to come through and start cleaning up all this brush along the side of this, and get it chopped up and thrown in the pile. And we'll probably come back next weekend, and we'll start burning as we go. And we'll just keep edge feathering all the way around this food plot. And then as I get further along, I'll show you new videos and kind of some more techniques and stuff I had found as I go. Thanks for tuning in.